Because there's a lot of idiot bank managers that have been sitting around with free money for 20 years that don't know how to make money. I mean, clearly the best strategy now is to go buy stocks that pay dividends, that are high quality, have good balance sheets. Our best performing asset has actually been Bitcoin since January 1st, up about 80%. I've been listening to the death of the US dollar since 1966. Now, until that changes, there's no chance of another currency becoming the default currency of the world. People wanted to make it Bitcoin. That's interesting, but that's a speculation. That's not a currency. Most of the market participants and pundits are at the place where they think the Fed is nearing the end of rate hikes. Now, whether there's another 25 basis points in the May meeting, whether there's a further 25 after that, another 50 basis points, yet to be determined. I'm now moved into the camp where I would like them to pause for 3 months. And I'll tell you why I say that. I've noticed that rent in most cities outside of the coastal region has rolled over 20%, not yet reflected in the CPI data, the way that CPI is calculated. That's a mistake, should be fixed, because that's very anti-inflationary. So right now the CPI says we're at 6.1% inflation. I think the truth is we're more near 4.5%. But the one that's bothered me the most since you and I last talked is the data I'm getting from my own CEOs in mid-cap and small-cap companies. Liquidity for loans has completely dried up in the last 2 weeks. So that is in itself doing the Fed's work, and I would very much like the Fed to look at that data from senior loan officers as soon as they get it, because there's a big problem brewing here. You can't get any capital. You can't raise money anymore from a regional bank, because regardless of whether the Fed guarantees the loan or not, the loan officer is saying, we know it's going to get tighter. We know regulation's coming. We're going to wait and see what occurs in addition to rate hikes, which make it even harder to be profitable. I think we have a real soul searching to do in America about how many of these regional banks are going to survive. And so this transition will reflect itself in loans to small and mid-cap businesses, which represents 70%. That's 70% of the economy. And I think the Fed's work is done. But I know there's no political appetite or voter appetite or taxpayer appetite to guarantee every single bank manager everywhere, because there's a lot of idiot bank managers that have been sitting around with free money for 20 years that don't know how to make money in rising rate environments and have no clue how to manage risk. Look what happened to Silicon Valley Bank. That's going to happen 10, 20, 30 more times. I have no interest in bailing them out. They're idiot managers. It's not my fault. Let the market get rid of them, and as it will. The market's good at doing that. I mean, half the economy pundits think that rates are going to be cut by the end of the year, and half think they're going to be up at a terminal rate of 7%. The truth is nobody knows, and how fast the economy slows. And the remarkable situation we have that we've never had before is we're at full employment. Unemployment is under 4%. Now, that's never happened before in a recession, so you're going to need some massive event that gets everybody out of work. I mean, clearly the best strategy now is to go buy stocks that pay dividends, that are high quality, have good balance sheets, less speculative, and the market's already done that. But to be completely out of equities now is probably risky as well, because if it's true that we're stalled out here on rate hikes, this is as good as it's going to get on treasuries, and it's still not beating inflation. And maybe the bigger issue is, what is terminal inflation? Maybe it never gets back to 2% again, which is why these are difficult times in terms of what it takes to be a successful investor. I see no reason, no upside at all, to put money, cash. I'm talking about cash. Why would you ever put cash in a regional bank? What could you possibly think would be a good idea there? Zero. It's crazy. So we've been taking it out of those banks. And by the way, I'm not the only person doing this. I don't have a kumbaya feeling about this. I simply want to protect my LPs, my investors, from idiot bankers. And so the only way I can do that is to move it into the large money center banks. We've also diversified from a geographic basis. We've moved some money up to Canada because they have an oligopoly system of banks, less chance that they'll go to zero. We've moved our crypto under the OSC. Our best performing asset has actually been Bitcoin since January 1st, up about 80%. So there's lots of alternative assets, but where do you keep them? And that's the real question. So we've opened accounts in Europe. Diversification is the only safety you have. And so most of our cash is being held in money center banks. We've diversified in the Canadian market as well. We invest internationally. So now for the first time ever, I have to invest time and effort. I have my own cash desk now where we simply go back through every day and say, where's our risk? Where's the cash? When you use a person's bank account as a tactical weapon against them personally, that really hurts your country's brand. And I think Canada knows that now. The only thing that matters for the U.S. is what is the default currency of the world? And secondly, who brokers the power? So those are the two issues that are at stake. Now, obviously, the world for a very long time has used the U.S. dollar as its default currency because it basically is the price of all commodities, whether it's gold or oil, right on down precious metals. And so I don't see that changing because nobody's going to take the Chinese yuan instead, no sovereign, not because the Chinese people are bad people, it's just that nobody trusts the Chinese government. So that idea is going to stall. Would I exchange my U.S. dollars for Macron euros? Not a chance in hell would I do that. The only country that holds up the euro, and everybody talks about this in whispers, but I'll just blurt it out, is Germany. Without Germany, there is no euro. So it's interesting to hear what he has to say, and I respect him as a politician, but it's irrelevant to me as an investor. These ideas are bankrupt. There's no way on earth anything's going to happen in the U.S. dollar. Now, I think Putin's very surprised as how well organized Europe and the U.S. got. I think we shouldn't be messing around with Putin. We should give them more money and make him come to the negotiating table because too many people are losing their lives. And he's not going to do that until he knows the war is lost. And so, he's a classic dictator. And the way you get those guys to the table is you say, look, you're going to end up like Mussolini if you don't solve for this because people are going to be hurting in your own country and they're starting to. Right. So you better start negotiating. I've been listening to the death of the U.S. dollar since 1966. Every 2 years, somebody comes along and says, this is the death of the U.S. dollar. You only have to ask yourself one question. If you're a sovereign wealth fund, I don't care what country, Middle East country, Eastern, Western Europe, where is the majority of your wealth right now? It's sitting in the S&P 500, denominated in the U.S. dollar. Now, until that changes, there's no chance of another currency becoming the default currency of the world. People wanted to make it Bitcoin. That's interesting, but that's a speculation. That's not a currency. And so maybe a digitized version of the dollar, although that's going to be stalled out by privacy concerns, I think. Maybe a private version of that like USDC. But the basic unit of conversion of wealth and storage of wealth remains the U.S. dollar. What country says it's dumping their U.S. dollar? Cuba, Venezuela, Brazil? Who cares? It's irrelevant. No one's dumping their U.S. dollar that is a major trading platform, and everybody wants to trade commodities and goods and services in U.S. dollars. That's why I always call this out. Who's saying this? Find me a sovereign wealth fund. Yeah, great. Russia? Yeah, let me invest there. What a great idea. I mean, that's the whole point. That place is turning itself into an economic wasteland. De-risking your child's life, even though it may have some hardship in it during tough economic times, is absolutely the wrong thing to do. That is a curse. The dead bird under the tree never learned how to fly. Famous words from my mother, who gave me that sobering discussion when I graduated from college. She said, you're on your own. No more help from mama here. Go make it happen. Good luck to you. Very important. And I did the same thing to my kids. If you have someone living in your basement and you give them no reason to move out and get a job, whatever that job is, that's on you. What a huge mistake. Now, I understand health issues. I get it. But an able-bodied man or woman that's being supported by their parents and letting them live for free in the basement, that's a very, very, very bad idea. I think for all governments, they should ban TikTok, but the way to solve the problem for the rest of the population is simply to do what the Chinese have done to other social media platforms. They kick Google out, they kick Facebook out. The reason that there isn't an Uber giant there is they wouldn't let them build that business in China. They brought a competitor to do it instead that was domestic. We should treat the Chinese the same way and level the playing field and say, look, no problem. We're just going to do to TikTok what you did to Facebook. You can still own a piece of it if you want, but that'll be 49%. We'll let you go get bids from the market. The servers have to be moved to the United States. The ownership has to be American, just like you did to us in China. And all that source code will be on American servers. I've said this many times before. Every other attempt for the last 7 administrations, almost 100 years of China policy has not worked. I mean, what more evidence do you want? And so at the end of the day, let's give them what they appreciate, what they understand, and what they respect. The stick. The Chinese respect the stick. That's it. I've said it countless times. Give them the stick because they want the stick. Now's the time for the stick.